In this video, I'm gonna run through a few games coming to Kickstarter this June 2021. I'll focus on tabletop miniature games, STL files, and anything related to the miniature hobby. Hi, I'm Katie, and welcome back to Nerdic Inspiration. It's June, which means there's new games coming out this month on Kickstarter. I've narrowed down a couple categories. I'm gonna review some tabletop miniature games, some sculptors selling their physical resin prints as well as STL files, and some stuff related to the painting miniature hobby. I'm not gonna cover everything set to release in June. This is just the stuff that I'm aware of, and even at the time of making this video, I've seen some new stuff that I originally didn't even know was coming out this month. And these are not Kickstarters, but that by any means I am affiliated with or sponsored by, and that I think you should back. These are just Kickstarters that I see popping up, and some of which I think are interesting, others which I think are just meh. Now, before we get into this, I know people are gonna say, this one released in May, it only has 8 days left, but just an update on The Witcher Old World, because this is like a big box series that a lot of people are fans of, has a huge fan base. I do want to give an update on kind of where this is at, because this is one of those games that's kind of making Kickstarter history and breaking records. So right now, The Witcher Old World is at $4.5 million achieved, and I think it has all of its stretch goals. So if you are a fan of The Witcher, you can pick up this game and you will get all of the exclusive stretch goals. If you pledge their deluxe box, it's a pretty decent price for a miniature game like this, $153, and you're getting the base set as well as all applicable stretch goals and the deluxe pledge ones only. So a lot of these miniatures are labeled only in deluxe pledge. You're gonna get all of that stuff in that box. But I'm sure you guys have seen videos on this already, or people covering the Witcher content. There's a lot of videos out there with people that had prototypes that were doing gameplay and showing you a little bit of what the game actually looks like when you get it. And so if you're interested in seeing those, go check them out on YouTube. Just search for The Witcher Old World. A ton of different videos will come up. Just wanted to give an update on this project because it is so huge, and it's just one of those huge fan-based big box games that has got a lot of hype and traction on Kickstarter with over 33K backers. So go check this out if you're interested. It's still running through early June for 8 more days as of today. All right, the next one we're gonna go through is Adventure Tactics: Adventures in Alchemy. Apparently this is an expansion on a core game. I've never played this game before, but I think I would like it. It is a dungeon crawler, which I'm a fan of. So I think that this game looks like it could be good. It could be fun. It's got some pretty good reviews when I looked up the core game, and people seem to really enjoy it. The good thing about a game like this too is it is one of those games that includes some miniatures and paper dolls. So if you're somebody that doesn't want to get a huge box like a Zombicide type box with hundreds of minis that you have to, paint, or you feel inclined to paint up, this one comes with just a few minis that maybe you can paint up and enjoy, but then you have the paper dolls that are fully colored and ready to go for you to play with. And it also just makes it easier to cart it around and stuff like that if you're going to a game night at a friend's house. The other thing about this is that all the art and illustration and the paper dolls and miniatures, they have a very cartoon style to them, which is something that you don't see super often. So I think that makes this kind of unique. They're not very detailed sculpts, so they would be good for somebody that's maybe new to painting, as well as for kids. I could definitely see this being more of a family dungeon crawler game that you can play with children, and these miniatures would be something that maybe they could even paint and enjoy painting, and you wouldn't mind. Right now they have an Adventures in Alchemy expansion only pledge for $35 or more, which is a pretty good price for the expansion. And then they have a base game and expansion, so if you're wanting to get into this game, you can actually get the base game and the expansion all in one package on this Kickstarter for $125. Big box pack, and then they have another pledge for the brick and mortar retailers. Next is Eldfall Chronicles, a fantasy tabletop scrimmage game played with high quality miniatures featuring deep tactical combat. PvP, PvE, and co-op, which is a lot of different gameplay modes for one game. And I think the miniatures and the sculpts from a hobbyist perspective are pretty cool. This game, surprisingly, hasn't gotten a lot of traction. This has 13 days to go. The reason I'm covering it is because it has more than halfway, the campaign is about halfway done. So I thought that this still was stemming into most of June. It just doesn't seem to have a lot of traction. They give you all these different game modes. They've got miniatures that are, high quality miniatures. They've got a bunch of different pledge reward tiers. The pricing isn't outrageous or anything like that. They've got some solid graphics here explaining a little bit about the game, quick setup, cooperative and competitive quests, fast-paced. I'm going to skip to the comments and just kind of see what people are saying here. I fear this campaign suffers from the Witcher board game being present at the same time on Kickstarter. Very good point. That's why I also wanted to cover The Witcher, right? A lot of people see that big box game, The Witcher, and they want to back that immediately. And the gameplay looks really awesome for The Witcher. And I love the miniatures, and I think that the price and everything is just on target. There are some massive games that have dropped recently that I also backed. Others might have pulled their pledge to afford those. Really good insights from people commenting in here. If this sounds interesting to you, check out the game, because this creator is, a lot of people are giving really great positive feedback on them, but they're a little bit stuck in the mud. The next one we have is Fall of the Mountain King, a 1 to 5 player standalone prequel to the award-winning In the Hall of the Mountain King. So like the title says, this is a prequel to another game that already exists. What they're doing with the content here is really cool, because they're taking this game idea that they previously had, and they're explaining the backstory of how that thing happened and why that thing happened. So basically, in the Hall of the Mountain King, it told a tale of how the trolls returned to rebuilding their mountain home after the generations wandering in the wild. Now it's time to share the legend of how the trolls were driven out of the relentless gnome invasion that shattered the 7 clans. So they're telling you that entire kind of story of how it happened. I classify it as a miniature game because it has a ton of miniatures, but the miniatures are more like units. They are like the same miniature that you have for your clan. And these are nice because you could use these, if you had a large troll invasion or something for D&D or another game, you could definitely reuse these miniatures for that purpose as well. They've got a couple little cool like tokens and things you play around with during the game, which I always like things that are really tangible and interactive. That's kind of the style or the gameplay that I really enjoy, especially with other people, is, things that are tangible, little puzzles I can solve, little things I can move around, tokens, tangible, interactive things. To me, that just makes the gameplay a lot more fun. So they've got a couple different options for you to kick. Fall of the Mountain King Kickstarter edition, Hall and Fall bundle. I think that's both the games. So you can get the other one as well if you're just now getting into the series. $158, not a bad price for 2 full games. So if this looks interesting to you, or you've heard about it, and now that they've got the prequel out, you want to get into it, this would be a great time to do so, because you're going to get an awesome bundle. The next game we're going to go through is Scarface 1920, a competitive mafia board game set in Chicago in the Roaring '20s that blends worker placement, area control, and deck building mechanics. Obviously, they haven't launched yet, so I can't look at their Kickstarter page, but they do have a Notify Me page up if you want to go ahead and click that and get notified when they do launch on June 15th. If you go over to their Instagram page, you can see a little bit of a sneak peek into the game. You can see some of the game pieces, a couple little cool social posts showing cards and like newspaper prints. I really like the way that they styled their Instagram. It feels really on theme, on brand, and the posts are interesting and actually pretty good behind the scenes content if that's something you're looking for. So this one looks promising, especially if you're somebody really into mafia themed gameplay and those types of mechanics. Then this is definitely one to check out, coming to Kickstarter on June 15th. You can also check out their page at redsandgames.com. They have the Scarface 1920 page up on here as well if you want to look more deeply into the overview, gameplay, and components. The next one on the list is another one that's going to be absolutely huge because the fan base is massive for the game, and that is Skyrim, Elder Scrolls. They are making a board game for Elder Scrolls. I have this page up to show you because they're constantly drafting. I guess they're working on putting together a campaign right now. I'm not sure how far in production they have the project, but they have said that they want to release it in June. So I think we can look forward to this coming out in the end of June. So if you go over to GameFound, they do have a little bit of information about the game, and I guess maybe the teaser of the box art. It's been really hard for me to find anything about the game itself, but basically it's going to be a co-op board game of adventure across Skyrim for 1 to 4 players. Alright, so those are all the games I'm going to go through in this particular video. There might be more coming out in June. Maybe I'll make an update If anything, I'll make another video in August of some new Kickstarters coming out then. Right now I'm going to go through a couple STLs and resin prints that you can get of miniatures made by different sculptors and independent companies. So if you're interested in just getting miniatures, then that's what this segment of the video is about. The first one we have are Stone Realm hard plastic multi-part dwarves in the 28mm scale. They have a little model scale comparison chart so you can see what theirs look like if you've got other armies that you're trying to work these into. It's not my particular style. I would classify these as more of a classic, but they do have pretty simple and streamlined sculpts. So if you're somebody wanting to get a bunch of minis that are pretty easy to paint up, and you're wanting to have a lot of visual clarity on the model, as far as, you know, this chess piece being this color or having some space even to do some freehand painting, this would be a great opportunity to do that on things like armor or helmets or shields. These are plastic, so you're not going to get STL files. It looks like when you pledge, even at the $74 citizen level, you're getting 3 plastic sets. So you're going to get physical models sent to you. Next up is Beastiary Volume 4 3D printable creatures. These are STL files. Obviously, as the title says, Volume 4, this is the 4th volume of this set. The other Beastiary sets have been pretty cool. I've definitely seen them pop up on Kickstarter before. I haven't backed one of these sets yet because I don't own a 3D printer. It's on my list. I'm hoping to get one very soon. I'm trying my best to save for one, but I think that he makes the coolest stuff. Like, look at these. What is that? I don't know what that is. It's terrifying and it looks so fun to paint. I personally love painting creatures and you know, gory things. I love painting like things with skulls and grotesque and skeletons and monsters. This type of thing is my jam, so this looks super exciting to me. I would love to paint these up. What is that? I want to paint that. These are awesome. The price is pretty good. If you're in the US, it's about $21 for just the Volume 4 STL files. And then he also offers tiers where you can get bundles, which I believe include like stretch goals and bonus content. And then I think he has ones where you can get the other volumes. Yes. So you can start to add in Beastiary Volume 2. So if you're wanting his other volumes 1 through 3, there are bundle options for you to get all those STLs and leave this campaign with a ton of really cool STLs. All right, for those of you that like sports and fantasy football themed games, we do have Dwarf Team Fantasy Football Extravaganza, Dwarf Blood Bowl team. So they're obviously making it, marketing it towards people that play Blood Bowl. But there are other independent games out there that people write related to football and sports. So these miniatures could be something that you use for that. I think these are only STLs. STL, pretty much all STLs, and then I guess print rights if you're somebody that wants to sell. Some options here if you're somebody that's into that type of thing. All right, Mortimizers Magnificent Monsters of the Multiverse. 4 high-quality 28mm resin miniatures of massive and unique monsters for both painters and gamers, with 5e compatible rules. So this one I was at a toss-up if I should put this in gamer miniatures, but I think this person is marketing this as something that's miniatures with a 5e rule set. These minis are massive. They are huge minis that you can get. Like this one here they have, for example, 76mm tall and 120mm long. Very large prints. These would be phenomenal, you know, massive things to put on your table as a creature to fight. And they're also very unique. Like this one's got like a chained horn. It's like a, you know, cyborg dino sort of thing. Never seen something like that before. The fact that it has a 5e compatible, I love when creators do that and they give you, even if they give you stat cards or something related to the monster, so you feel like you have some sort of grounding of when and how to use it. It is pretty pricey. They are printed, so you're not buying STLs, you're buying printed miniatures. And they are going to be a pretty penny because they're pretty large. The pricing to me is decent. I think that for this size, I would have expected a little bit better of a deal, especially if you pledge and get all of wave 1. $255 to me seems a little bit much for the 4 plus like a small rule set. I would have expected like a little bit more of a discount there, but overall the prints are awesome. The miniatures are awesome. I have no complaints about this. that's just my one thing that I probably would have critiqued is the pricing for this particular Kickstarter and the way that this is being launched and what you get compared to some other things out there. Feels like the pricing is just a tiny bit too high, just a tiny bit. If you're able to support and you really enjoy this, definitely pick one up because it's worth it to have a monstrous print like this, especially if you don't have a 3D printer. It's really hard to find unique models like this that are that size. So you're gonna get a pretty good deal with that. All right, now we got Skrapruntz 3D printable miniatures, a set of 10 plus goblin and orc-like miniatures, all 28mm scale, pre-supported and ready to print. These are some cool little guys. I think they've got a lot of character, things that are a little bit different than what you would typically get in a box set. These runts are just as cunning and brutal as their larger counterparts. If you funded, you will receive STL files that can be used to print these on your personal printer. So these are all going to be for STL files. $25 or more gets you the 10 miniatures, plus the tactical orc, big orc champa, and big orc banner. So, I mean, the pricing on this is really great. They even have an early bird out right now, so if you're catching this early, you can jump in on that, and that's even cheaper, $20 or more. Fantastic price, awesome sculpts. You're getting a huge big bang for your buck. These are great for wargaming, these are great for display, these are great for making a little orc and goblin diorama. They can work for D&D. Some really cool miniatures. I love this sniper with a little, backwards hat, with a little backpack. So cool. These have so much character. So if you've got a 3D printer, you're looking for some more orcs and goblins, check it out. Speaking of character, another campaign that has some really characteristic and unique miniatures is Monsters of Solan Fantasy Monster Miniatures. 60 plus imaginative monsters in spirit of classic fantasy role-playing games. So these are great for D&D, Pathfinder, any sort of fantasy related game. I love this dragon, guys. I have to show you this dragon. This dragon is reading a book. This is so creative. I absolutely love that. This dragon is reading a book and he's got a little stack of books down here. What's he reading? I don't know. You can freehand a little book cover on there. $49 or more and you're gonna get the miniature set and the stretch goals. I wanna end the resin and miniature STL file section of this video on this campaign, Epic and Stuff's The Tortles. Epic and Stuff I found through Patreon, and I discovered that they were doing this Kickstarter campaign, and I checked it out, and it looks so cool. There very rarely are turtle miniatures out there, and especially ones that have such unique character to them. I love the way that this creator sculpts his miniatures, and I love the different poses, and the faces are adorable. Obviously, I don't have a printer still, so I won't be able to print them, but they offer resin models. So if you're somebody that doesn't have a 3D printer, you can back a physical resin tier and you can grab some of the resin models that you really enjoy. There are a ton on here and there are some stretch goals to unlock other ones. My favorite by far are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle themed ones, which is like the main reason I'm backing this campaign because I am a huge TMNT fan. I mean, these are so cool. And the naming that he did for these turtles is so clever. And I actually talked to the creator on Kickstarter. I sent him a few messages. Lance, he was really sweet. He responded with very detailed responses and answered a few of my questions for me. So it seems like a creator, that you definitely want to back. I want to see more from him. And check out his Patreon as well. He's got a Patreon page where you can subscribe to stuff like this monthly and get all this awesome turtle epicness, as well as a ton of other different sculpts and themes that he's done from past months. So if you're interested in that, that's an option. If you're a merchant, he also has a merchant tier, and the merchant license in this Kickstarter only allows you to sell these for life. So if you spend $353, you get all the turtle miniatures and you can sell physical prints as like a lifelong license versus going to his Patreon and doing the merchant tier where you can only sell as long as you're subscribed to that tier. So if you're somebody looking for those sort of licenses where you can not have to worry about being subscribed or managing that type of thing, this is a creator that's offering that option for you. These are awesome. I know that this one also wasn't released in June, but it is going through the first week of June. So if you like Tortles, this is just one that blows my mind because it's so hard to find something like this. You're a D&D player, this is absolutely perfect. I would highly suggest backing this. All right, now we're gonna move into the miniature hobbyist painting sort of supplies and different things related to the miniature hobby, and go through a couple things that are on Kickstarter that could be interesting to you. The first is the Regrass Wet Palette 2. So this is the second version of Regrass Games Wet Palette. If you ask me, a lot of wet palettes are very similar. They have the same function. As somebody that is an artist, like I do classical art, and I've done art for a multitude of years now, I have wet palettes, and I have a few, and I use them for acrylic painting on canvas. The thing that irritates me the most about wet palettes is if the water pools in the palette, if it starts to smell, because some of them, if you put the cap on it and you leave it for maybe a few days and you haven't painted with it yet, it traps a lot of moisture and stuff in the sponge, and it gets like smelly, like it smells like a old dish sponge. That's something that's a pet peeve of mine. And the other is the paper that you put into a traditional wet palette that you buy from a store is usually way overpriced. So I always recommend to people, especially new painters, whether you're a classical painter or you're somebody in the miniature hobby, try making your own wet palette, because you need to make sure that you like painting and doing, the hobby before you spend money on something like this. Make sure that you enjoy it and see what you like and don't like about your wet palette, what size you want, how big is your workspace, all those different things. Figure out what works for you, and then, level up into a wet palette that fits your needs. I like the size, I like the construction, and they have a reusable membrane, which is pretty new. Some of the artist wet palettes, I have a master palette. That one, technically you can reuse the paper, and I've done it before. You can reuse it a couple times, and then it really just starts to get super stained and flexible, and to a point where it's not really usable anymore. But the revolutionary reusable membrane, it sounds like a great idea, and maybe it's a new version that works really, really well, the hydration system that they're going through and everything here. But it does exist in other artist wet palettes, not meant for miniature hobbying, but general paint wet palettes. There are ones out there that already kind of have a reusable membrane layer. If you're new to painting, you don't need this wet palette to be a good painter. Again, I suggest making your own wet palette, see what works for you, and then choose a wet palette on the market that fits your needs. If you are an artist that does acrylic painting or any other painting, you have a wet palette, it works the same for miniature painting. Miniature paints are just acrylic paints with smaller pigmentation. So you're gonna get the same sort of value out of a standard wet palette that you have. There are gonna be different things that maybe they considered in the product design for this that could help support more of a miniature painter, like the size of it, right? In your workspace and how you work and the user experience of it. So consider that when you're looking at something like that. Just come into it, knowing what you're gonna get. All right, this is another one I'm gonna go through, and I promise I'm not trying to be a downer on these campaigns. But the Light Up 360, the lamp for miniature painting, it presents a 360 degree, as I'm guessing what the 360 is supposed to mean, kind of arced lamp that you put over your workstation. Seems like a great lamp, a lot of light, and I see what they're trying to do, like get rid of any blind spots or shadows that could alter the way that you can perceive the color on your mini, or when you move the mini around, sometimes you lose the light because you just have a small bulb lamp. To me, it's a bit excessive. This would get kind of annoying and be in my way, especially since I like to lean, and I don't have much space for this giant arc to be over my desk. So just for me personally, I don't think I would like this design. It's just a bit overbearing, and in my opinion, it looks a little goofy on my workstation. You don't need a lamp like this to be a good painter. Again, it's not gonna make you a better painter, especially if you're new to painting. Get a solid white light lamp and use that for a while, and just position it in a way that works for you, or even get two if you want more light. Get two of them, put one on each side. I also think some of the marketing is like a little odd for this. Like they say, lights up from every angle, which gives you shadow-free, almost, painting. That's such a weird way to phrase that. Minimizing glare, like for me as a product designer, when I look at something like this, it's hard for me to picture the use case and the user experience and how they tested this with real people. $309 for this lamp as well. I don't see the value in there. And this is my opinion. I'm showing you all the Kickstarter campaign. If this sounds interesting to you, if you've been looking for a lamp like this, and you like the design and you think it's gonna look good on your hobby desk, go for it. My opinion though, I don't want to back this campaign. I don't have a need to back it, and even if I was looking for a new hobby lamp, I probably would not go with this one. So if you're interested in this lamp, it is available on Kickstarter now. This next one is AREALM. I think that's what it's called and how you're supposed to pronounce that. This is actually by Foundry, which already has an existing virtual tabletop software. This is basically augmented reality for your webcam chat. So people that do a lot of virtual tabletop and virtual gaming, especially for games like D&D or Pathfinder or any sort of RPG where you're playing in a campaign as a character that you've created, this is something that can help you augment that video and become your character on video. So this is great for the person that doesn't want to cosplay but has fun with that sort of thing, or somebody that thinks it's annoying to continuously put on cosplay every time they want to go on camera. I think this is really great. I'm a little bit worried on how they're going to maintain so many assets and what kind of variability they're going to have and customize assets for people that have very unique characters, you know, with a scar right here and a scar right here and this colored hair and ears that go like this, and very specific characteristics that you kind of vision for this character, rather than just having like the same kind of green orc character for every single person that wants to be an orc. So I hope that the library is pretty extensive, or they have a really cool way to customize. I really like this idea. So as far as a tool goes related to the miniature and gaming hobby, if you're into VTT and you're into cosplay sort of stuff, this could be something that's really interesting for you to back. So I would check this out. It's a new campaign. I think they've got 26 days to go. So a lot of time if you're interested in backing this to get aboard on augmented reality video chat. All right, that's all I'm gonna be covering in this video for June of 2021. If there's any campaigns that I missed or I didn't have a chance to cover, feel free to comment below and let other people know that those campaigns are out there and what campaigns maybe that you really liked from this that you're gonna back. You can support my channel for free by subscribing. Just hit that subscribe button down below. You can drop a like on this video and you can leave a comment down below, and all of those things are free ways to really help support and boost my channel. As always, links to my Discord and Patreon are in the description below if you're willing and able to support in that way. On Patreon, I post behind the scene content, early access to some of my video releases, and just a bunch of different things and perks of helping to support the channel in a monetary way. You can also find me at Nerdic Inspiration, where I post content outside of my YouTube channel all week long. All right, cool.